So the airport project started with a planning effort for an airport layout plan in 2010. That was completed at the time. They were looking at doing reconstructing the existing runway where it sits today. In 2011, we started talking about the concept of relocating the runway to ease the impact of both surrounding properties, 150th H Avenue, as well as it's set in the current configuration, it was too close to Highway 141. And so as part of that planning effort, working with FAA in Central Region down in Kansas City, as well as in Washington, D.C., the decision was made to offset the runway 400 feet, which got us away from Highway 141 and gave us a better product in the end, where we were impacting less properties, less parcels. The runway at that time, half the runway was built in the 60s. The other half was built in the late 80s. And around that 2010 to 2011 timeframe, we started noticing that the pavement on the runway was failing. It was having a variety of different type of failures coming on, just from age as part of it. Some of it also from poor aggregates that had been used in the 80s that were causing issues. So that was really the catalyst behind how do we get this fixed and what's the right fix for it. And that's what led into that planning effort that like I mentioned, as far as offsetting it and building a new runway 400 foot to the south. You know, it took several conversations in that early time frame of the project. I would say we probably had conversations ongoing with several of those FAA staff for probably a year. Was probably, I think, around 2012 before the decision was finally made that, yeah, we're going to offset this. At that point, then we started getting concepts in place, and several entities became involved fairly early. Dallas County was a big player with it as it was impacting their roadway system. Obviously, the FAA Central Region, the Iowa Department of Transportation Aviation Department became involved. They were helping us actually maintain the condition of the existing runway while we got the new runway built. So that presented a challenge. As we got closer to construction, there was apparent that we were going to impact wetlands with the project. So we had the Army Corps of Engineers involved. So several different agencies evolved out of that planning effort and coming up with that concept, and then developing not just a funding plan, but an actual construction phasing plan and how we go forward to do this.
So we started phase one, which was just the grading and drainage portion of the project in spring of 2022, and got pushed that until I think it was about November timeframe. We finished that project, had everything seeded under phase one. I think it would have been just before we started construction, we had bid out phases 2 and 3, which was paving and lighting, the 4,000 foot, and then full construction of the 1,500 foot extension, which happened at the same construction seasons. But that started, I think it would have been a little before August, maybe June of 2023. Finished the 4,000 foot construction, and then this year completed the 1,500 foot extension, paving, lighting, and it's been a process. But yeah, it's come together nicely. A lot of times when you have to phase a project like that, there's certain restrictions on what the FAA is available, what they have available for funding. So phase one was broken up, and I mean, that was almost $2 million in itself. Phase two, just the 4,000 foot is something like $5 million. And then phase three, the 1,500 foot extension, is another $3 million. So the FAA kind of works it into their capital planning for what they can actually build each year. But on top of just the construction, there's the actual approaches that come into the end of the runway that get published, which happened this morning at 4 o'clock. But that all needs to coincide with when construction is going to be finished. Now, the benefit to phasing the project the way and offsetting it the way that it was done here, we were able to build all of phase one without having any impact on the open existing runway. And there were minimal shutdowns in order to connect all the taxiways to the existing 4,000 foot runway. But it really comes down to the wire when you're trying to correlate those two things, because when 1432, the new one, is open, the old one's closed. So that switch ideally happens the same day like this, but there's times where you might have a week or two shut down, but this has been, this time around, essentially seamless.
I do think it really highlights the importance of having a team from both the ownership group, the engineering group, and the contractors group. It takes a lot of trust in each other to do your part to get to a product at the end that's, that's a goal for everybody, that's a usable product, that is something that we've strived for from the beginning. I think the contractors on this project did an amazing job. They were good at communicating with us. The city staff were extremely available for them and super helpful on every step of the way. At the end of the day, everybody working together as a team is what produced this product. This changes the dynamic of the Ferrier Airport. When you go from 4,000 feet to 5,500 feet, that changes the type of aircraft that can come in here. It really honestly impacts economic development across the region, not just the city of Ferrier, but all across Dallas County and other adjacent areas. As we're growing in the west side of the metro, especially the Dallas County area, there are no other airports in this area. When you start looking at 5,500 feet, that becomes very enticing for people who are looking to either come into the state of Iowa or come into Dallas County. It puts Ferrier on the map as a very viable option to bring a new business to town. And so it's significant. The Iowa DOT looks at measuring the economic impact of airports all across the state. And I think that is something that gets underlooked several times. And what this has brought to Ferrier and what it brings to Dallas County is tremendous.
So I guess after this is wrapped up, we're currently working on design of the parallel taxiway. Construction of that slated to happen likely spring of 2026. After that's done, the next major thing with changing the dynamic of the airport is to go through a master planning exercise, changing the critical aircraft that's using this runway, looking at terminal area improvements being new hangars for general aviation and both corporate. There's a lot of potential that this brings in, and that all kind of gets captured in that planning study. So that'll be the next, outside of just construction, the next major thing to see what other projects lie ahead.
Yeah, continued growth in services and amenities in Ferrier, and opening up this area of Dallas County to new businesses and new development.